Oh dear, what a shame. Well, there might be, you never know. Right. Right. Evening, everybody. Right. The meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. Any exempt private items on the agenda, the live stream will cease prior to the meeting moving into private. There might be a short delay. Do I sound really loud? Because it sounds as though it's coming back on me. Right, I'll continue. Get used to my voice. A recording of the meeting will be available on the Council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Now the important bit. Would members and officers please remember to switch microphones on when speaking and speak directly into the microphone and switch off when finished. Reporting officers joining using Teams, use the hands up icon on your screen for questions and comments. Please turn your camera and microphone on when speaking and off when finished. And finally, please place mobile phones on silent mode or switch them off. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Peter Chapman, and we have Councillor Abbas Hussein as sub. Councillor Moore, we have Councillor Mead as sub for him, and other apologies are Councillor M. Hussein and Amy Nichols. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Minutes for the 18th of January, are they accurate?
Yes, Chair.
Yes. Can I sign them? Thank you. Oh no, it's okay. Right, my update. Options to prioritise Luton residents to new homes, Clare, Asterbury and Collinmoon. OSB meeting 19th of June 23. The date to be confirmed but listed under items to be received during the year. E-scooter as a form of sustainable travel. This will be delivered jointly by Anthony Swift and Kieran Frenzer. Dates still to be confirmed, but listed under items will be listed under items to be received during the year. There are no page numbering in some parts of the agenda pack due to a printing error, although the electronic copies have got the page numbers on. This is likely to be a printing error on the hard copies that went out. Apologies. Disclosure of interests? None?
No, Chair.
Any urgent businesses?
No urgent business, Chair.
References from committees and other bodies?
There are no references, Chair.
Right, we start on item 7. Debbie, you're going to be presenting it. We won't be having a presentation because you've all seen it, and as it's 2021, I thought that because of what the next item's about brings us more up to date, I thought if they gave us a quick run through of item 7, it would be appreciated by members. Over to you, Debbie.
Thanks. So I'm going to go through really briefly, and then Debbie's with me as well for any questions. I think everyone knows me, but just in case, I'm Sinead McNamara. I'm the Interim Service Director for Inclusive Growth. So we launched the town-wide employment and skills strategy last March. At present, we are collating the annual review to demonstrate progress to date, publish case studies and share with stakeholders the plans we have for 2023 and beyond. I'm delighted to report that of the 94 actions in the implementation plan, We've already begun work on 70, with the remaining 24 to begin this year. The overarching report and slide deck provided you with the detail on our 4 priorities and the successes we've achieved to date. We also shared statistics of how we're doing as a town. Given the current landscape we're working in, particularly around the recovery from COVID, the cost of living and the war in Ukraine, we are seeing some improvements in these areas, but we can't escape the national challenges around increased economic inactivity and recruitment challenges. However, in the Centre for Cities report recently published, Luton was the 3rd highest rate for business startups in the country. Only London and Brighton were above us, and we had lower business closure rates than 7 of the top 10. We've also reported as the 7th highest rise in private sector job growth in 2021. And as a town, we are super connected, and we are number 1 for super fast broadband. Our next steps for the employment and skills strategy is to publish our annual review ahead of the pre-election period beginning, and we will be working closely with the Chamber on a new local skills improvement plan. We are also proposing to launch a new £5 million skills programme for Luton, which will bring together all of our skills programmes under one umbrella. This includes a relaunch of Passport to Employment, our adult learning programme, Multiply and UK SPF, along with our new apprenticeship brokerage scheme. This overarching programme will support more than 3,000 people per year. So finally, there is a strict governance model in place which will see regular reporting back on progress to members. So that's it for me in terms of a quick summary.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for the report. In terms of, for me, Southward, I was hoping to see something on needs, not in education and employment and training. Where are we with those who are not in employment training, etc., etc.? There's nothing here to tell us where we were before and how we've moved them on. It's on the next item. All right, thank you.
Yes, Deb.
Yeah, just to come in there, in terms of the NEET figures, they have actually reduced from 2.7 to 2.3%. And so we are going in the right direction. And compared to other figures nationally, we are also doing incredibly well. There is still a lot of work, to do on that. But the education team, so underneath Caroline Dawes, they are doing a huge amount in terms of our needs in Luton and some real focus programmes.
Want to know numbers wise. That's what she's been telling me since I learned from her. Thank you.
I will absolutely feed that back to the education team and ask for numbers moving forwards.
Councillor Franks?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick comment on this NEET figure. I always have a slight suspicion about statistics on NEETs because I'm not really sure how you can dig down to getting accurate figures. But I guess you can use whatever statistics are available. But in the end, it has to be, I think, an educated guess, albeit an educated one rather than just grabbing a number out of the sky. I'm encouraged by the report. There are some improvements and advances in a number of key areas, but I've got a couple of questions. If you like, I'll give them all in one go, and then I think there's only 3 questions. One is, if it's a 5-year programme, is the funding actually secure for the whole 5 years? Can we pretty much rely on it being available? The second question is on higher paid jobs in Luton. It's always interesting to look at the difference between the average salary of a Luton resident and the average salary of a Luton employee, because what that often tells us is that the people in the higher paid jobs actually commute in from elsewhere, don't actually live in Luton. So if there's any information on that, would be helpful. And finally, there's, I can't give you page numbers because I haven't got any, but there is a section on apprenticeships. And I'm aware that there were a number of what I guess I can only call temporary apprenticeships, for example, in construction of the DART airport rapid transit system. So do we have any information about how many of the apprenticeships are actually proper apprenticeships that go full course until the apprentice gets the qualification?
Thanks, David. It'll be a bit of a double act with Debbie and I on this. In terms of the funding that we're working to at this moment in time is until March 2025. So we're using a lot of UK SPF and Multiply, but we have all the money that goes into adult learning as well. So this is about grouping that together. We're also using some of our reserves, and we aren't proposing to use all of that. So potentially we can use some more post 2025, but this program is a targeted 2-year program with the potential to extend it. So I'm confident that we will have enough money there to deliver a really strong employment and skills program up to 2027. But it's not just a council program, this is a town-wide strategy. So it involves the work of Barnfield College, the university, some of our businesses, etc. So between us, we've got a really strong offer. So that's the funding question. In terms of the salaries, this whole piece of work is around how we upskill our local people to make sure they are getting those jobs. So we're getting our local people into those well-paid jobs, but also about raising aspirations. So we start from a young age with our children and young people around these are the jobs of the future to excite them, because we also know that some of our young people leave to go to university and don't come back. So we need to do some work around that, which then feeds into the next report. I'm going to talk around how we sort of excite people about what's happening in Luton to make sure they don't leave. So that will be a whole body of a marketing campaign really around employment and skills and the opportunities we have locally. And I'm going to pass over to Debbie on apprenticeships.
So in terms of the apprenticeships at the DART, all of those that were taken on by Volker Keir Fitzpatrick would have been to have complete their full apprenticeship. So if they weren't able to complete it on the DART, if it was an 18 or 24 month apprenticeship standard, then it would have been completed on other projects beyond the DART. If you would like some specific figures though, and to find out how many of those apprentices went on to secure substantive employment after that, I'm more than happy to go back to Luton Rising and ask those questions for you.
Yeah, thank you. I think the answer to those questions would be quite interesting, actually. But let's not go to the trouble of another report to OSB. Just drop us an email, that'd be helpful.
Of course, no problem.
Councillor Wynne.
Yes, just one question and one which I ought to know the answer to but don't. The one question is, you say 5 organisations within Luton have gained good business charter status. Who are they? I can't give you a page number, I'm afraid. It's in the panel. It says number 3 on the left-hand side in the panel.
Sorry, is the question which businesses have signed up? So it's the council, Luton Bid, Eco Style, Ashridge Estates and the Culture Trust have signed up so far.
Sorry, give me those again.
So in terms of the businesses,
Council, yes.
The council, the Culture Trust, Luton Bid, Eco Style and Ashridge Estates.
Okay, thank you. And one that I should know, in section 10, you're saying that an annual review and video for promotion will go live ahead of PERDA Can somebody help me? I should know when PERDA starts, but I don't.
My understanding it's the 23rd of March. Around that. So yeah, the video will be out ahead of the pre-election period
I think
beginning.
it is the 23rd. I seem to think that number.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Yeah, Sinead, I remember this back in many years ago now, but yeah, you've done a fabulous job on it. But I've got two reservations. One, it says more sports, on page 23, sport businesses to recruit 240 apprentices, through the brokerage stream by March 2025. That figure sounds a bit less to me. In 2 years, you're only aiming to do 240 apprentices, or support businesses to get 240 apprenticeship schemes. So that is one. The other one, which David Wynne picked up on, was the good business charter status. What is the good business charter status, and why have, out of those 5 that you mentioned, I think 3 are LBC related? Why haven't we gone out to like Capability Green? I don't want to name no businesses, but Capability Green, Airport. Why have we not gone to get anything other than the council? The 3 that you mentioned, they are the council related ones. So can you elaborate on that good business charter, please? And why is it so? Because reading this, 5 organisations within Luton have gained 5 business charter statuses. Trust me, the names you read would have crossed my mind. I was thinking big, so why have we not gone out to those businesses? If they are, I know there's some businesses in Luton, big businesses that are working with the council, so why have they not upped the game, sort of thing?
So in terms of the Good Business Charter, if I go back to the first bit of it, so we are aiming to be the first Good Business Charter town in the UK, is our aspiration. So we do need to get some more businesses behind this. In terms of as a council, we initially struggled. So there are 9 aspects that you need to sign off against, and one of them was the real living wage. You have to be able to demonstrate that you've got a net zero plan, etc. So we are working really hard now with our businesses around trying to get more signed up, especially where we've got a lot of small and micro businesses. There's actually a much more straightforward process for them, so they haven't got to tick all those boxes. So that makes it a lot more accessible for them. I think the biggest challenge we've had is that businesses are really struggling in terms of the cost of living and all the energy costs and all the other things they're trying to do. This just feels like an add-on, but we are having those conversations, and Ferguson, Debbie's team, is doing some really good work in terms of progressing it. But I think following the recovery of COVID and then the impacts of the energy, etc., it's just not a priority for them. And I think we need to work with them to make it a priority. But we are in that place of we need to support them to survive and then support them to thrive. So whilst we're doing that bit of work around how we support them to make sure they've got people in place, I mean, they're struggling with recruitment and everything. So I absolutely hear what you're saying. We've got 8,180 businesses, so we should have way more than 5, and we will target way more. But we need to first get them back into a stable position and then do that work with them. And I'm just going to pass over to Debbie on the apprenticeships bit.
Thank you. Can I just follow on from the Good Business Charter? We are in conversations with organisations like the airport, for example, with the NHS. So BLMK are quite a way forward in their application process, but larger organisations have lots of hoops in which they need to jump through in order to evidence. And one of the things that they are currently struggling with because of the cost of living crisis is being able to guarantee that they will pay the real living wage through their supply chain. So even if they are able to do it, they've got to make sure that their supply chain are able to do it. So it's not that we're not having those conversations, because we are having those across the board. In terms of the apprenticeships, so this is over and above what organisations are already doing. So the team that we would like to recruit have not been recruited yet. So we are in the process of going through the recruitment process for that. And so we hope to beat this figure, and the plan is to double it year on year in order to promote apprenticeships as a great way of retaining and developing staff to meet those skills gaps as businesses start to evolve and move forwards.
Can I just say a supplementary to that, please? Do you know, on that one, thank you very much. I understand what you're trying to say there. But going to small businesses is important as well, because when you mention to small businesses that they get a tax, some sort of a tax implication, they save on tax basically if they have an apprentice on their books. Okay, it opens their ears as well. So when we do focus on big organizations, maybe we should try to focus on some small businesses as well on that, because it does have a tax impact on their end of year. I don't want to use the wrong word here, I mean, and then get caught out, but you know what I'm trying to say? It has a good benefit to them if they employ an apprentice in their business. So,
absolutely. And as part of the apprenticeship brokerage scheme, the idea is working with those small and micro businesses in order to make sure that the apprenticeship levy does not leave Luton, because some of the larger organisations that are paying it are seeing it as a tax. And then it will, after 2 years, it just goes back to HMRC and it is left Luton. And so the aim of the apprenticeship brokerage scheme is to make sure that that money stays in Luton and supports those SMEs. And so that is what we're doing through the brokerage scheme. So small and micro businesses are absolutely at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Finally,
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, thanks for the update report. On the point of apprenticeships for SMEs, I'm pretty sure there are perhaps businesses across Luton that are SMEs that do have apprenticeships, but it could be the data collection point that we don't know about it. So I think it will be useful to try and engage with them to find out what their state of play is, because I'm pretty certain there are small businesses out there that do have apprenticeships, but it's a case that, of us trying to gather that data. That's the most important thing. The other thing is that let's be clear here is that we are still, for our businesses, that they're still in a post-recovery COVID state. COVID hasn't gone away. It's still a challenge. It will be still here with us. And on top of that, we've got the additional challenges of cost of living crisis and an energy crisis as well. So so the most important thing is what you've said, Sinead, is that we need to enable our businesses to get back to the position, so that they can thrive, to be able to recoup the benefits. And I'm pretty sure there will be plenty of businesses that are thinking about, if not already signed up in the future, to the business charter, which would be great. Will be a great achievement for us. And the other thing is that, it'll be great to have, it's good to see that University of Bedfordshire will be signing a civic agreement with the council, which obviously will enable more young people to come through the system and, get more good jobs in Luton. And one of the things that I'm going to commend here is the point made on page 44, point 2, about prioritising skills engagement and provision for people vulnerable to being left behind by changing labour markets and automation. I mean, one of the things obviously we forget, or perhaps we don't much talk about, is about the impact COVID, the economy has had on women. Many women have had to give up their jobs to be able to look after the families, especially during COVID and post COVID as well. And obviously there's lots of official statistics on that. So that is something that I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more work done. And I'm sure you are already doing that, because that is because over half of the population in Luton are women. So it would be good to see a bit more work done. And I'm sure you're already doing that anyway, about how we can support more young girls and women, especially those that are obviously feeling the after effects of the labour market conditions and the challenges in terms of employment post-COVID. Thank you.
Just to confirm that will be a big strand of work for us, and we'll when we do one of our regular reports back, we'll do a bit of a focus on that, so you can see, and a bit of a case study around that, because there's lots of great work happening in that space already, but there's definitely more we can do.
No more questions? Thank you for that. We now move on to item 8. Sinead, or who's taking
Yeah,
this?
I'm gonna briefly do just a quick summary of the report. Obviously, it links into the skills report, so I won't go into skills in a lot of detail. But I would like to begin by reconfirming that all the proposals set out in our report do not require any additional funding from the council. The funding is from external grants secured and Butterfield reserves, which are ring-fenced sums of money for economic growth and skills. We've already discussed skills, but just to reconfirm, this proposal is to support the delivery of the employment and skills strategy and combine our skills programmes to sit under one umbrella. We are proposing to formally launch the new £5 billion skills programme for the town, which will see a refresh of the adult learning offer and programme, a refresh and relaunch of Passport to Employment, the delivery of Years 2 and Year 3 of Multiply, where we'll be working deeply in our communities, and we will shape a new UK SPF skills programme, and of course the new apprenticeship brokerage scheme model, which will go live shortly. If approved, this new programme will be supported with a dedicated marketing plan, and using our software, we will be able to track progress against all streams, enabling us to look at destination data and support residents throughout the journey. There will be clear targets set with outcomes and measures. Across the programme, we will reach in excess of 3,000 residents per year. And then moving on to inward investment, place brand and town centre activation. Following the elections, we will formally launch a new place brand for Luton and inward investment prospectus for the town. The place brand work will sit alongside a new town centre plan led by the Town Centre Strategic Board. In addition, there will be a dedicated town centre place activation and engagement plan. This work is currently being funded through the government's Partnerships for People and Place programme. But given the significant regeneration programme we have planned for the town centre, including changing perceptions and fully activating the place, we would like to use some drawdown of the reserves to keep these two posts going until March 2025. Without these posts, we run the risk of not delivering on our town centre plans, including the UK SPF activation plan. More than ever, with the stage and the new Hat Gardens Pocket Park, there is a need for us to keep up the momentum in this space. To support the growth of our clusters, so aviation, advanced manufacturing, creative, green and digital, and town centre regeneration, we need to commission the delivery of 3 studies, which include SME and clustering work, understanding and gaining knowledge of our empty units across the town, and this is to support our wider SME growth plan. And then finally, a football club study to look at the economic and social benefits of having a football club located in your town centre, but also with a focus on if they get promoted to the Premiership. These 2 programmes lead the way in delivering our inclusive economy strategy and can be delivered at no additional cost to the council. We are at a critical point in terms of skills, employment and Luton's regeneration programme. It is more important than ever for us to keep up the momentum on these key strands of work. We have clear governance and measures in place so we can really track success and regularly report back. Looking at the recent data, we can see improvements, but there's also a lot of challenges and work we need to do, which these programmes respond directly to and target those particular areas where we need to be working more deeply in our community. We do know as well that some of our businesses are struggling, so we need the right support packages in place. In addition, we know from our commercial agents, Luton is an attractive place to invest, and they have a pipeline of businesses wanting to relocate here. There has therefore never been a better time for Luton to step forward. Thank you.
Any questions? Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Franks.
I'm usually pretty keen on keeping my eye on sources of funding, but the Butterfield Reserve has sort of slipped off my agenda for some reason. I don't know why. I think what we really need to know is, are future activities, further land sales and whatever, going to continue to add to the Butterfield Reserve, or is it fixed as where it is now?
So the Butterfield Reserves are directly linked to the Innovation Centre and business space. So not to do with the building, so not to do with the HBD development. It's the income that comes, it's like a profit share with the Innovation Centre and business space that goes into that pot of money. So that was agreed back in when Vauxhall shut and the East of England Development Agency negotiated that. So it's been there for a number of years, and it's always funded economic development work.
So it's going to continue to contribute. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Councillor Gwynn?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of very minor things, really. Any funding implications of this? Not asking for a response now, but could you drop out an email telling me where I can find the relevant entries in the budget proposals that we had at Budget Council, please? One other issue is, and I can't give you page number, but it's section 16, the third item that you mentioned, the football club study. I don't quite understand where the council comes into this, because surely the decisions about what's going to happen with the football stadium in the town, it's part of the town centre plan, and surely that's the football club's business, not ours.
So it's the benefits that the town gets from having a football club. So the economic benefits of other businesses that relocate in the town, what visitor numbers would be. So that would help us to, so the football club know what they would get as being a Premiership club, but we don't know what the added benefits are for the town. And we need to better understand that in terms of what that means for us. We don't have that level of detail. So the football club only know directly what they get in terms of if they were promoted and what it means to move in, but we don't know the benefits of that in terms of, as I say, the economic growth benefits of more businesses relocating to Luton to be nearer to that, what it means in terms of additional visitor numbers coming in via public transport, coming in through the airport. You know, if you go right up and you've got international games going on there, what it means in terms of marketing and advertising. It could be really small or it could be huge, but we need to better understand what it means for our town in terms of the benefits from it even.
Thank you. That's great. I now understand that. I understand I would support that as well. Just one final thing. I keep seeing issues about viability or otherwise of the football stadium, and I'd like to make sure we keep an eye on that as well, please.
Councillor Abbas Hussain.
Mine was regarding the football study as well. But okay, going off, Shane's done a good job answering Councillor Wynn's question regarding the football club study. But shouldn't this study be done beforehand? Not like now, because they're about to, sometime in the near future, they will submit an application for a stadium at that location. So this study should have been done slightly like going a few years back. Then now, when everybody knows there's going to be some sort of stadium there, Champions League, Premier League, wherever, there's going to be a stadium there. So why bring the stadium football club study now? What is the reasoning behind bringing it out now?
The reasoning is just so we can get a better understanding of what it actually means. So so when they submit their planning application, they do set out some of the economic benefits, but we don't know it in enough detail. So I think for our town centre master plan and our whole town centre regeneration plan, we need to better understand it as a council for our wider economic growth plans in terms of jobs, skills, what we've got available in our town centre, what that means for the wider impact. So you're right, we probably should have known it, but we've not had budget or we haven't been able to prioritise it, so we're bringing it forward now.
Okay, and the last bit to my question is just the line paragraph down. You need, this all will cost £100,000. Okay, is that £100,000 going to be withdrawn from your reserves that you've taken from the educational, the adult learning part and the other funding that you're going to get, or is that £100,000 you already got from a previous budget or something?
So it will be funded from the economic ring-fenced reserves. It won't come out of any of the skills money.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Julie Hussain.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, officers, for the report. I suppose on the point of the football club stadium, I suppose it probably does make sense to do it now because the climate's different. You know, let's talk about COVID once again. It's had an impact on the town. Obviously, it's had an impact on everyone. You know, so I think now, and obviously it will have an impact going forward. Cost of living crisis. We're talking about also, energy crisis as well. So I think doing of the report now, as in bringing it forward, probably makes better sense because we're in a climate where obviously we know how things will plan out moving forward. Whereas doing it before COVID, nobody knew, COVID would have had an impact, and it would have had, and also Brexit and so on. So I think I welcome that. There was one point on coming to my real question on page 20. Paragraph 20, excuse me. You talk about a new procurement policy and also an updated prosperity through procurement plan. Any chance you can forward that afterwards? Because I don't think I've seen it.
So in the report, I was just referencing that the two items I was bringing forward this evening were focused on the skills and the place brand and inward investment piece around the town centre.
Okay.
But we're due to bring the procurement policy and the updated prosperity through procurement and a refreshed inclusive economy strategy post-election.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make members aware that we weren't doing it. We were just doing these two pieces of work because they needed to progress quite quickly. But we are intending to bring those other reports forward that are also part of the inclusive growth service.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that because I think it's probably the language in here that wasn't making sense. But yeah, look forward to receiving it if I'm still on this committee afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both the reports and all the answers. We're asked as members to support the proposals set out in the report. Does everybody support that? Yes, Chair. Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you very much for your
time. Right, item 9. Right. Eunice, are you doing this or am I? Right. The OSB work programme setting. To try and plan and determine its work programme robustly, because I've been finding, especially over this last year, we seem to be things that we'd be interested in, like I could take various things that Councillor Franks has brought up, which as a committee we would find, I think it's something we should investigate. But given what's been sort of coming along, saying this has got to go on the agenda, we seem to have lost control of it to a set. Well, I feel as though I've lost partly control, that it's reacting to things that are urgent rather than actually taking the items that do definitely need looking at, and it keeps going back and back and back. So what would the recommendations are that we review and comment on the items included in the draft work programme. Also agree a way forward to manage the work programme to ensure items are captured and scrutinised in a robust way prior to submission to executive. We're very much governed as a scrutiny committee what is going to executive. Also examine, right. The next, examine the draft programme attached at Appendix A and make any amendments or comments. So if we can do that next. have a look to see what's on the work programme. Not sure if I'm doing this right. So I'll just go through the recommendations and then we can pick up what it says. The next one, no, yeah.
Are we talking about the meeting on the 9th of June? Is that the work program you're looking at?
Yep, and we've also got potential items and topics for consideration throughout the year. We want to have a look at that as well this evening.
Yeah, but can we do this when we know what's going on in here? May, the end of the bank for most people. I think it's what will come in next.
Well, that still doesn't stop us from making any decisions, just because, well, as you have heard from somebody, that I'm not standing anymore. Standing at the next, but that still doesn't stop me from making a decision.
Well, we can't make a decision, but they have to make their own decision.
Yeah, before coming here. Before coming here. So we can go over and sit here and go through that. And then
They're going to say.
Yes, Councillor Franks.
We've got a programme and a wish list as well, which altogether provides a programme for the new OSB after the election. If the new members want to change that, then of course they're free to do so. But in the meantime, at least we have got a programme for Debbie Jane's team to work on. And we can't predict what the new members will or won't want to do. That's for them to decide.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fine. So long as, because I wasn't personally sure whether or not, they can, if for instance, there was a new OSB committee group of members and they wanted to obviously amend and stuff, but if they can, then that's fine. That's fine.
I just feel that we need to start somewhere on this, and this is we're not pushed for time. So, we only had this two things on, and I feel strongly that this has got to be something that's dealt with, and it's not just me and the Democracy and Scrutiny Officer, the two of us, let's have a committee looking at this evening, because as I say, we've got time this evening to actually go through it. So, do we want to look at that's the first three things, sort of setting out where we are at the present moment, what I feel it's happening where OSB is concerned. Now, yeah, go on.
If I could just comment quickly. I think if you refer to paragraph 8, where we've got the potential items and topics for consideration throughout this year, I think it's for members to have a look at those items and to agree what items they feel should be coming as either regular reports, standing items, or reports that will just come in as information items only. I think once we've done that, that will kind of set the pace for the coming year's work program.
Yes, Councillor Wynne.
Just to add, I entirely agree with you, and I think when our post-election, of course, yes, people are going to make different decisions, of course, but I don't think there's anything wrong with us having some suggestions. One thing that struck me that's really missing from the things that we've seen in these papers has been anything relating to the town centre redevelopment plan, which I think needs to be a lot more prominent. That's really the only comment I would wish to make.
Is there any ones that that you say, no, I don't think OSB should be dealing with, that we can sort of get a report back or some form rather than actually having the officers come along with a report?
If I may just come back on that one,
Yeah.
then Chair, yes, there is one other item which potentially I think we ought to perhaps look at, and that is at the whole area of licensing and licensing panels, because I get feedback that there are issues concerned with the licensing decisions.
I'm not sure that that's actually within the scope of OSB to look at.
That was what I was going to say.
What I would say is, at the last meeting of the group leaders, it was agreed that we need to try and find a way of making the long-standing policy of members of licensing and development management committees actually having training. It's been an objective of all three group leaders for a long time, and frankly it isn't working, and we've agreed to try and find a way to make it work better. I think that will improve the functioning of all of those bodies.
Yes, I agree with you totally, because as I say, at one point you used to get trained on licensing and then you had to have an update when I think it was every other year, you used to have to, this is going back to when it was started, you used to have to then go for training, and you couldn't sit on those panels unless you had done the training, whereas that is a bit like the appointments panel. That again was training, but that's not any longer. People sit on that.
It's policy, but it doesn't happen. And we have agreed a mechanism which will actually make it more effective, which all three group leaders at the moment have agreed to.
Follow up on that then, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to be advised that that's the case. So I go back to saying, in this list, and I'll call it suggestions for the moment, in this list, the thing that's missing to me is Town Centre Master Plan.
Yeah. And then, that is not quite the next one. 4. What do you mean by?
So yes, so
this is a double act.
Also, just to point out that the meeting of the 19th of June is a bit full. We do have, I think as you advised at the beginning of the meeting, we do have another item, option to prioritize Luton residents to new homes, which will be reported to that meeting on the 19th of June. And so I think members should have a look at the items coming to this meeting to see how we can best manage the number of items that will be reported on the day.
Can I just chip in here on that new housing issue? I really think it's a critical issue for the future of providing homes for our current residents. And it's much more important to get a quality report than it is to get a quick report. So if we don't get it in June, I don't care, so long as when it does come, it's got some real quality in it and helps us to move the issue forward. That too many of the new homes being built are actually being occupied in the first instance by people moving from more expensive areas. Does nothing to help our local housing problem at all. So let's get a good report. Okay. And if it makes it for June, that's fine. If it doesn't, well, we'll wait.
Thank you for that.
Helpful. So, right, we note the items that have been moved or removed from the work programme. So we'll always tell you if we've, because sometimes we will go through that. you'd be sitting here until 11 o'clock at night, and I say to Eunice, is there anything we can move to the following thing, but make sure that it's not lost?
Yeah.
So that comes to the last one, that if items have got to be moved or removed from the work programme because of either the officers aren't going to have the reports in time, or just that the agenda is just so full, it's just not practical.
Yes.
But delegate that to the Democracy and Scrutiny Officer in consultation with the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Board, with the responsibility to make any urgent changes to the work programme between meetings. Yes, Councillor Hussain.
Yeah, on the point of quality report, I think one thing, if we can ensure that it's honed in on this, the reports that are brought forward for consideration by members, I mean, you know, it includes a good summary page, because some of these reports are just pages and pages and pages of information. So what we want is, you know, a good quality, you know, concise summary. And also the other point is that if there's any information that's changed from the time the report is published and by the time we have the meeting, then that obviously can officers try and make sure that they try and provide that in advance, so that obviously so it helps.
Can I just say to you, I have actually taken it up with Robin Porter that, because I'm fed up with getting loads and loads of pages and having to read through it, only to find that they've only changed a few things. And it's been something that I have been going on about, I think, ever since I had been the chair.
I mean, like I said, sometimes it can't be helped because they're trying to provide you with as much information as possible.
Yeah,
but if we can try and see if they are concise with additional information, you know, then that would be helpful.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Just chip in for a second. I absolutely agree with you in terms of getting the reports to being more concise. The snag is, as I'm sure you know from your own work, to actually produce a really good short report is more work than producing a long one, I'm afraid.
So where it's possible.
Yes, and I do. And sometimes you get something sort of late with just the changes. And that's because I've read it and thought, this is ridiculous.
It's a good objective.
But, oh, I agree. Can we make that our motto? A bit like as David Outbury said. I started off when I was first joined a scrutiny committee. It was the Health and Social Service one. And the NHS are fantastic at doing percentages. And that used to annoy me, because percentages, that was part of my job, was to produce figures for people to go and sell things, etc., etc. And you could make figures mean anything, definitely percentages. And that used to be my sort of, if nothing else, be remembered for it in the council. But, right, does everybody agree with the general consensus of what we're saying is recommended? We could actually put in there, could we not, that reports are going to be short?
So obviously this is what we would recommend to be the programme going forward, which, yeah, but it can change by whoever's sitting on here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
But it's at least a start.
At least it gives them a starting point. Yeah, you know, you're right.
That's all I wanted. Right then, we've got crime and disorder, 9th of March. And then on the 6th of April, we've got
the additional meeting.
Yes. So you've got another 2 meetings yet with me chairing. Right then, that brings